This episode is brought to you by Goals.com, the sales performance platform built to help teams stay focused, motivated, and on track. While most CRMs just track data, Goals.com drives real results. It's simple, affordable, and designed to help your sales team hit targets faster, without the headache of complex setup or costly consultants. Whether you're using a CRM or not, Goals.com works seamlessly to elevate your performance. Book a fun, fast demo today at Goals.com.
All right, welcome back to the Goals.com podcast. Today's guest knows a thing or two about keeping clients happy, teams performing, and tech running smoothly. Lee Weech has led sales teams in the fast-paced world of IT services for nearly a decade. And with a 99% customer retention rate at Tech Legion, it's clear he's doing something right. From closing deals to hiking trails with his kids, Lee brings strategy, heart, and hustle to everything he does. Lee, you ready to dive in?
Let's go for it.
Let's start with your story. What first drew you into the world of IT sales, and how did your path lead you from Executech to Tech Legion?
Yeah, so early in my career, I would say trying to find my niche, try to find the industry that I'm really passionate about. And I had some friends that were in tech, not necessarily managed services, but tech in general. And ever growing tech world was expanding, a decade ago. And I knew this industry was one that was here to stay. It wasn't going to go away. So kind of took a leap of faith and joined a small company that was trying to find its way in the Salt Lake market. That led me to a Microsoft association meetings that they had back then, which led me to a meeting with an Executech employee that was at the meeting, which then the next step was to sit down and talk to the founder and the president at the time, Eric Montague of Executech. And then obviously he hired me, offered me a job, and I was there for a good 8 years, a little over 8 years. And then I'm actually back working for Eric Montague at Tech Legion. So that's how I got from Executech to Tech Legion. Is Eric Montague's a mentor of mine and a person who introduced me to the industry, and it's great working for him again.
That's awesome. So you spent 8 years leading sales at Executech. What are some of the biggest lessons you took from the experience that you brought with you in your new role at Tech Legion?
Well, when I first started, I think all of us that get into this managed service world, and I've talked to many people across the country in the sales role for managed service providers, and we kind of think when we come in that it's just like any other sales job, kind of keep doing it the same way. You've kind of always done these different industries, and it's a much different world in the managed service world. It's a much more trust. It's a much more value add. It's not your traditional sales job. So you kind of learn through the years of how to read, how to negotiate, how to, let's go back to read the room. What kind of person am I talking to? And are they more low key, high speed, all of those kind of traditional things. And then you really adjust, and you need to be the amoeba salesperson and kind of adjust to the people that you're talking to. But it's a different sales world in the IT space that we're in. And so, of course, you take all those lessons learned, all the accounts, all the wins, and learn from the losses. The losses tend to teach you more than the wins sometimes, or majority of the time. And so then you just kind of keep the ball rolling and take those lessons, to your next employment here at Tech Legion.
Sales in the IT services world can be complex. How do you approach simplifying that complexity for your sales team and for your customers?
Yeah, it can be complex. In our world of managed services, we're there for a reason. They reached out to us, they called us, web lead came in. So we're there for a reason. And what I found is start with them. Kind of simple, kind of maybe a little cliche, but start with their story. Start of, why are we here? Why did you call us? What's happening? And I was always surprised in the beginning of how much information they're willing to share. They will literally tell you just about anything in their story of what's going on in their tech stack and in their tech environment. And then from there, you're just kind of just weaving in the stories, weaving in the trust, the value. How does Tech Legion solve the problem that they're having. So kind of what I tell people, in the industry, whether it's people that I actually were or kind of reporting to me, if you will, or people that I'm just having these conversations with, is start with them, and we can get the information we need really quickly. Maybe in the first 5 minutes, we can get the information for a quote, but it's that extra 40, 45 minutes that's really going to determine if you're going to win the proposal or not.
Well, Tech Legion boasts a 99% customer retention rate, which is virtually unheard of. From a sales leader's perspective, what do you think is the secret behind that kind of loyalty?
That's a great question. When I first came to Tech Legion and was hearing those kind of client retention numbers, it's unbelievable. It's a really high number in our industry, and maybe a little self-doubt of it being true. But when I really started attending the operations meeting, getting to know the technicians, sitting down with them kind of one-on-one, getting to know who they are as a person, not their tech skills, but as a person, who they are, and became much more believable. The Tech Legion tech tech people have a great ability to relate to clients, to really sit down and listen, understand what the problem is, but not necessarily just what their current problem is, but really trying to forecast, sit down in that consultative approach to look to see what's going on.
Sure. You've worked with over 130 clients across the United States. What patterns have you noticed in the most successful client relationships, and what tends to move the needle for them?
Another great question. I've dealt with clients all the way from the East Coast, Midwest, California, all over, and there's a lot of similarities to it. In the IT infrastructure side of the world that managed services kind of play in, they want to know the stuff works, and they really want to know, if something happens or if something goes wrong, and maybe they can't get a hold of their technician, are they going to be able to get a hold of you? Are you available? Do they believe you as a human are going to take care of them? And I've been fortunate to have an ability. I really care for the people I talk to, whether it's internal and business wise, or in my personal life. Really want to make sure people are doing the best for them and really taking that opportunity to get to know what they need, as opposed to what will this do for me as a person or as a company. So really just trying to understand what they need, but that universal truth of, we just want it to work. And we don't want to know your name. We don't want to call you all that much. So once they understand that that's what we're trying to do and not just bill hours, then that trust really grows fast.
Yeah, personally, I can relate. Our sister company, Digital Park, a digital marketing firm that I own, we've been in operation for almost 20 years, and our relationship with our IT providers has been critical through the years. And it's a vulnerable situation because, you can go 99.9% of the year without needing to call them on, related to a specific website or a software platform until you do, right? And so it can be a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden email for a specific client or for a specific product is down, or a website is down. And then, you know, can I get a hold of that person, and can they resolve the issue in a timely manner, and all of those things. I've been there so many times. And so my relationship with our IT partners is so critical and so valued. And so I know exactly what you're saying. What does a high performing IT sales rep look like to you? What traits or behaviors separate the good ones from the bad ones?
Yeah, I mentioned it in the last answer a little bit, is the ability to build the trust, the honesty. Salespeople have a bad rap. So how can you do things differently? I've always looked at salespeople in my space, in the managed service space, as people who need to build trust and relationships really quickly. The response time, people always make fun of me for how fast I am, or I might look at my phone and reply to an email kind of right away instead of waiting 10, 20 minutes. But those things have won me deals, have built that trust. There's a story from a previous career before IT where I had a client in Las Vegas and she sent me an email at 7 o'clock at night. My son was like a year old. So I was like, oh, it's not that important. I'll just answer it in the morning. And she calls me at 7:30 and the first thing she says is, are you okay? Of course, I'm like, yeah, why? Like, you didn't reply to my email. Like, it was just that response time. She was so used to the cadence of my replying. But when you start dealing with companies that are, 50 million, 100 employees, 300 employees, speed is of the essence. So I kind of look and see a successful salesperson, trust, loyalty, and speed.
Sure. As you've stepped into your new role at Tech Legion, how are you thinking about building or evolving the sales strategy? Are there any key shifts or initiatives on your radar?
Well, key initiatives is really staying ahead of the curve. As we all know, technology changes quickly, changes fast. The AI, the co-pilots, all of those things in the world are changing fast as well. But even the average technology, meaning the device, the computer, the desktop, the zero client devices, the monitors, the Wi-Fi, all of those things are evolving and moving quickly as well. So it's imperative, for our salespeople to stay ahead of that curve, or anybody in our industry performing this service to stay ahead of that learning curve. So when you're out talking to current clients, prospective clients, maybe you're speaking at a conference or something like that, you really have to know your stuff and it needs to come quick and fast in your mind to answer people's questions to, again, build that trust, the loyalty, and all of those things.
Yeah. How do you keep your team focused and motivated, especially in an environment as fast moving and technical as IT services?
Yeah, us as salespeople, we're based our success on sales. Our income is based on commissions. So when you lose that one deal you thought you were 90% chance of closing, or maybe a client that you're getting paid commission on cancels because something happens from the operational side, it could be a challenge, and I've always been trained and always kind of had the philosophy of you can only control what you control. You can only do the best you can do. So on that current client cancellation, you did our job, we did our job from a sales perspective of getting them as to be part of the family. Something didn't click on the operations side, but don't let the operations side affect your mentality, your emotional state, your positivity for that next opportunity, because that one can really ruin three or four that you're currently working on. So kind of stay focused, stay in the core. And then, maybe a little cliche, but we all need our outlets. We all need people to call that we can vent to, that can talk us off the ledge, when those situations happen, and have a support staff kind of ready to help you as well.
When a rep hits a slump or loses a deal they were counting on, how do you coach them through that?
Well, first, I really try to understand what's going on. Maybe start by a few of the deals. Maybe not go over all 20 of them, but maybe handpick two or three of the deals and walk through from, okay, where did the lead come from? What was your connection? How did you communicate with them? Walk me through some of those things, and then I've always been one, always willing to go, always willing to be part of that next meeting and to really understand and try to find maybe some key nuances in which they're not doing or they can improve on, to be part of that kind of situation. But as I mentioned a little earlier, it's more of a mindset, is what I found in this world of managed IT sales. It's you as a human is going to determine your success, not if you know a whole bunch of tech, right? We don't need to know tech and the screens and how to adjust things and how to change things from a tech perspective, but we need to be able to explain it, and so maybe some education, maybe a little more knowledge from the tech side can help as well.
Totally. What's your approach to ongoing sales training and development? Are there any tools, routines, or philosophies you swear by?
I don't know if there's any kind of those core philosophies or, core books that I kind of hone myself on to, but I'm a firm believer and deal with a lot of different people. So I like talking. I'm a on the fly learner, meaning I like to watch people. So I'll watch some videos, watch some people kind of going through their sales process, reach out to people that are sales outside of tech and kind of find out what they're doing, kind of best practices, kind of, if you will. But as a core, just keep being yourself. If you're a good human, you take care of people, you want people to succeed, and all of those things, and just ask the right questions. So maybe I'm not asking the right questions the right way. What are those kind of core things in the sales process that I can do better at?
How have client expectations changed in the last few years, especially with the rise of managed services, cybersecurity concerns, and remote work?
Yeah, they want answers quickly. They want answers fast. That's kind of why I try to stay ahead of the curve from a technology standpoint. I watch the news from an IT perspective, watch the news, so I know what's going on in the world. So if I'm having conversation with somebody, you mentioned cybersecurity. So if someone mentions cybersecurity or, some breach that occurred somewhere, I want to know about it. Again, I don't need to know all the fine details and the encyclopedia of what happened, but I need to know what's going on. And so when people are talking to you, you are the trusted person. I've been in this tech space for 8 to 9 years. I've been in the community volunteering. They kind of know me as the IT tech guy. So I need to make sure I'm at the top of my game to make sure that I know the speed of the answers to build that trust.
Yeah. With AI and automation making waves in the IT space, how are you thinking about these trends from a sales perspective? Threat, opportunity, both?
Yeah. Yeah, there's opportunities there. Microsoft Copilot, we're a big Microsoft shop. It's a phenomenal tool, whether it's internal organizational work or external organizational work, it's great. So learning what Copilot does and those opportunities to bring some licensing in from companies that maybe they even have their own IT department. And Tech Legion can be someone as a partner from just a licensing perspective, self-portal, self-manage, but being able to find those trends from a sales marketing perspective, what's happening in those spaces where we can bring some additional revenue into Tech Legion from that perspective. But it's amazing what the AI does from a job performance perspective, or to help a salesperson's job. You go to write a document, as we've probably all done it by now, take your paragraph and drop it into an AI and ask them to rewrite it. And then you can ask them to rewrite it like you're the CEO, as a finance person, or as a lawyer, or as a blank, and it will write it. And it's amazing. I still tweak it, of course, make it mine, but it really simplifies what's going on. And then from a Copilot perspective, or other AI functionalities do this too, but you can really use AI from a productivity perspective, and it can tell you, what are your top goals today? It can look at your to-do list, your emails, your calendar, all of those things, and kind of give you an agenda for the day if you want to do it. So it's really amazing what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, no doubt. You've served on the Salt Lake Chamber President and Ambassadors and stay active in your local community. How does giving back shape your leadership style or perspective?
Yeah, that's another great question. Always been one to give back. Early in my career, right out of college, first job working at a car dealership in California, they had some volunteer opportunities, and I had an older gentleman that took me under his wing and kind of shared his experience of giving back, and what it can do not only for the community and your family and yourself. So I kind of really embraced that from a early college graduate way back in the 90s. And so that's always been part of kind of who I am. And the biggest thing from, the volunteering in the community to the business world, it's willing to show up. If you're committed to do something, you're committed to be at a ribbon cutting, you're committed to volunteer at an annual meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, you show up at 6, and you're just there, right? And it's the same concept when it comes to the business world. If I have a meeting and let's say it's 9 o'clock in the morning here in Salt Lake, it's snowing, I'm still coming, unless I physically can't get there because of blizzard, I'm coming. I'll be there. And, and that just that tenacity and that willingness to put yourself in a tough spot, whether it's time, sleep, whatever the case may be, to make sure, things are taken care of.
Yeah. You visited 18 plus national parks with your kids, which is awesome. Any parallels between hiking trails and leading sales teams?
Expect the unexpected. As you're walking across a trail and you think you're almost there, and then you turn a corner and no, I'm not. I'm not even close. You're looking at the map. Maybe you're reading it wrong. You think you have 200 yards, you have 2 miles. Those kind of scenarios, occur. And how can you still enjoy it? How do you enjoy the grind of, seeing these beautiful places? And it takes a lot of stress and a lot of strain, in your muscles and your body to see some of those things, and time and effort. It's the same thing in sales, right? Sometimes you might go 0 for 5, you might go 0 for 10, and what are you doing to still enjoy the job, to enjoy the camaraderie of your team and the company? What are you doing? And that really parallels with these different national parks, because in sales, the beauty is at the end when you're looking at the waterfall, you're looking at the lake up in Washington, you're looking at the Slot Canyon here in Utah. That's beautiful. No one sees a picture and realizes what you did to get there. They just see the end result.
Relate. What's something surprising about you that most people in the business world wouldn't expect?
Well, here in Utah, I'm a transplant. So a lot of people don't realize that I grew up in San Diego, born and raised there. Moved to Utah 20 years ago in 2005. And then when I was in San Diego, I actually started playing lacrosse when I was in sixth grade. Played it all the way through college. In high school, I was named high school All-American lacrosse player. Then went on to play college lacrosse, and a lot of people don't expect that from me.
Awesome. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of sales advice before you started at Executech, what would that be?
Well, outside of buy the Apple stock, buy the Microsoft stock from years and years and years ago,
Yeah.
um, really find that sales leader. I wish I would have taken more time in my earlier careers to learn more from the people above me, from a management perspective. Maybe ask more questions, maybe be involved, and ask if I can be involved in the decision makings a little bit more to understand more of a broader scope of the business. That would have helped me be more successful earlier on in my career. And then, of course, as I moved into the tech space, I kind of learned from my mistake and kind of now understand and take that time.
Yeah. I wish I would have bought that Apple stock too. What's one book, quote, or mindset that's been foundational in your leadership journey?
Yeah, there's a version of this quote. I've seen it multiple times. I don't know the originator, but it's good salespeople sell features, great salespeople sell outcomes. Is something that really stuck with me in the IT space, because these people are having problems. These people are struggling. Maybe their server's been down for 5 hours. They can't get it up and running. They're losing thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. Sell the outcome, sell the ability to not only fix their problem with a feature of a new piece of equipment, but solve the outcome, the long term, the 6 month, year, 5 year kind of solutions. Just really sell that outcome. Set yourself apart.
Last question for you. What does high performance sales leadership mean to you?
Uh, Willing to be present, willing to be there. As I think it's regardless of the industry, regardless of the business vertical that we're talking about, sales leaders or leaders in general need to be present and willing to jump in when needed. Be that person that, if somebody calls in sick and you're working at a restaurant, you're doing the job, you're helping out, you're picking the trash up, you're doing all those little things from the perspective of the employees. That builds credibility to you. So down the road, when you're critiquing them or when they're giving you advice, they know that they care. They actually know that you care about them as a person, as a job, as a company, and you just want them to be successful. So I've always been one to jump on a sales call at any time, move my schedule around, drive somewhere for 2 hours to have a meeting. Just where do you need me and where do I need to go?
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Big thanks to Lee Weech for bringing the insights, energy, and even a little national park inspiration to today's conversation. Whether you're leading a sales team or just trying to keep your tech from crashing, There's a lot to take away from Lee's approach. Until next time, stay curious, stay focused, and keep leveling up. This is the Goals.com podcast. See you in the next episode. Lee, thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by Goals.com, the sales performance platform built to help teams stay focused, motivated, and on track. While most CRMs just track data, Goals.com drives real results. It's simple, affordable, and designed to help your sales team hit targets faster, without the headache of complex setup or costly consultants. Whether you're using a CRM or not, Goals.com works seamlessly to elevate your performance. Book a fun, fast demo today at Goals.com.